Good morning. Let's take a look at yesterday. Some really solid trading angles and a very largely in-place stats led day yesterday. In-place stats and momentum proving to be the two main trading angle factors. So we take a stroll through some of the matches yesterday. Well, 1.63 Sturm Graz getting the job done. The only angle in there would have been any 0-0 at half time, or of course an Altac lead. Union Singulwa, post-European woes, I fear, here. Now, the momentum graph was a key indicator in a couple of plays which didn't go right. This was as flat as a pancake. I think we have to pay more attention to the momentum. If we don't see any strong momentum signs, then yes, we can lay that draw, but lay it later on at lower liability. As ever, it's up to you whether you want to lay the draw at the odds you'll get at half time, because that liability can be quite hefty. Now, bear in mind, not liability hefty, but the rewards for the liability not as high as you would like. You could solve it in a couple of ways. You can have an exit, and that's something we can look at in the live stream. You can get out at a predetermined loss amount. I would say a third of liability is loss, because psychologically getting back 2/3 of your stake is quite comforting. So, for example, a £40 liability, if you hit a £13 loss, you've laid the draw, you get to a £13 net loss on all accounts. Take it. You've effectively bought enough time, hopefully, for Union to score. But momentum is a key indicator yesterday. I'm not sure if there's a momentum graph here which will do it justice. But if it's flat as a pancake, just for little bits, no real dominance, bits and starts, giving as good as they got, and poor expected goals of heading towards one. Both teams expected to get the single goal, but not quite crossing the line. Early season as well, we are dicing a little with death, aren't we? We don't have any form lines to work with the likes of Norway, etc. Sweden, we've got a whole raft of stats to work off, like GIF Sundsvall have not had a draw in the last 18, for example. That's far more stronger evidence to lay the draw than only 2 matches into the season and European football. So, tricky one. This was a nice winning play, but it was a bit late at night. I was starting to, get the old nodding head. But it was a good play. And amply rewarded as well. What happened here? Westerlo took the lead and early. Now we have to gamble, because we don't have any Genk in-place stats to work off. You have to gamble and just hope that it's a 1.46 shot that's turned up with home advantage. Now, we had this on a couple of matches yesterday. Mario Hamner, for example, got that second goal. Note here, and people like Stephen Francis, when we get to the live stream, will tell us penalty, own goal. That can be a good indicator that it's not a deserved 2-goal lead. So that 1.46 might still be in check. Thankfully for us, what I did there, I topped up. I did not panic. That's why this is not 40 quid. I topped up. I backed Genk at better odds, 2-0 down. I laid Westerlo, £5 stake as liability. 2 goals up at even shorter odds. My thinking, if I get a 1-2, that's my exit for a break even if I don't like the look of Genk today. And indeed, that came in the 41st minute. That is an exit point. If you've topped up, it's your exit point. If you've got an unexpected 2-goal lead for the underdog, you've played and you want to get the bleep out of dodge, that will get you out of dodge with an effective break even. You've averaged up your exit point. But Hainan, reading My thoughts decides to make it 2-2 in the 43rd minute. This is like manna from heaven. This is exactly what you want from a strong favourite, 2 goals down. You've got the ability to top up, and you're being rewarded for topping up. That's your first exit point at 2-2. Those of you who want to stay in for the win, you're going to get rewarded throughout the season, I would say. And Biboot getting the job done, the mighty Biboot, everyone's favourite player, Biboot. Now you see this compared to +1, which covers the draw. What I like to do for members is try to get this scenario working. We've got a small amount, what I would call a tolerable loss on the draw. That, I hope, will entice you to stay in for the bigger reward. Okay. Now, at all stages, you could also negate this liability here. If we get back to 2-2, you can start negating that 45. That will bite into this profit, though. But you will give you a bit of peace of mind. Another option, at 2-2, you can clear this and leave a green purely on Genk. So there's many ways around this. I try to get members to stay in the draw, take the loss on the draw in the hope of getting the bigger return on the win. Over the course of a season, I think aiming for the win will return far more than those marginal losses you'll make on the draw. It's well worth it, particularly when it comes in. It can be very, very rewarding when you've called a 2-goal deficit correctly. And talk about reliable, our old showbiz pals, Club Brugge, turning up yet again. How many goals have they scored already this season? It's only 2 matches old. Great league. We had a bit of fun in the Chinese Super League yesterday because we had an early start. I get you the Shanghai Shenhua winner from a goal down to Henan Songshan Longmen, the mighty Henan Songshan Longmen, and Yunan Yukon were, I think, a goal down to Dalian Yingbo, who were red carded. Really, really good value because their reaction was absolutely rock solid throughout. Every single metric hit in reaction to the red. Momentum, up, 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 what you want to see. Marry that with stats, and you've got a great value play relative to the stats and the red card. So superb stuff in China yesterday. Delighted with it. Shanghai Shenhua especially. Very impressed. Czech Republic, Sparta Prague doing the job, and Poulsen scored first, then conceded, and you're thinking to yourself, you absolute they're going to do it again. Let a 3-goal lead slip last time, but not on this occasion. This was probably banker material, wasn't it? They've got to win at home to Teplice, and they nearly cocked it up. They were 2-1 up at half-time, then they went to 3-1, and then you could see it going 3-3, 3-4. Oh my God. Bless them, eh? Championship, very accommodating yesterday. All of the English leagues were superb with the in-play stats, readability-wise. Delighted, absolutely delighted. Calling the likes of Charlton correctly, Middlesbrough correctly. Got there in the end. This, well, daylight robbery from West Brom. But we didn't cost us too much because we laid West Brom leading late. So the odds would have been nice and low. At least your liability would not have been a heavy one. But absolute robbery. Those of you who laid the draw, you'd have got West Brom scoring first. Laid the draw purely on the expectation of Norwich running away with it. Their in-play stats were absolutely through the roof. Sheffield United, a typical Sheffield United performance, basically. You're not going to be laying that 0-0 with any confidence this season. Play your archetypal 1-0 merchants if they can score. Leicester scored first against Notts County and then conceded. I was very tempted to lay Leicester. I don't know why. A goal up, but I didn't. Oxford United, we got the very, very late goal. Absolutely superb call. And you've got the momentum to thank for that. 1-2 down at home. Their momentum suddenly went up like this. Boom. Literally vertical. Latch on. at low liability, 1.25 or lower when I called it, I believe. So around that, superb stuff. Could have had a Desmond here with Reading and Luton. Missed that one. Very, very accommodating yesterday. All behaving themselves, these teams. They're delivering on their in-play stats. Bradford, job done against Peterborough. Laying that draw second half, nice and easy does it. Really good stuff. Huddersfield, well, AFC Wimbledon couldn't take advantage of the 2-0 lead and the red card, but sometimes odds-on favourites are just too good, even down to 10. English League 2. This is the more dodgier of the leagues, but I did give you a shout for Accrington Stanley if you got on. They were a goal down to Colchester, I believe. Well, they did score first. One of the two, but I passed it on to you. Hopefully you got on because the goal came very, very sharpish, which was problematic. The ones I starred are, I don't know why, maybe because they're newly promoted or newly relegated. That would be a reason why they would be starred. So interesting to see those results, particularly Barnet and Cheltenham, looking like they were newly relegated, because that's a commanding performance. I may need to double check that, of course. Northampton, the side who didn't get the goal second half, and again, we're dicing with death. Opening match of the season that these sides will deliver. I suppose that goal was coming at 0-0 against 9 men, but then Crewe got red carded themselves. But the goal did arrive. That's the second time we've had a doubly red carded side eventually capitulate. Mariehamn, this was a shock result. Took a loss on this one, but we won't see it here. I should have waited for the reaction because it was an early goal from Mariehamn, and yet again we're not seeing any stats from SJK. I'm assuming, and I assumed wrongly, because they just didn't turn up in any capacity at all, and I was screaming at myself for passing this on. Awful metrics throughout. Any momentum you'd have seen would have been neutral, right down the middle or under the middle. Goals occur up here. SJK were like a flat line throughout. It's very, very frustrating. So my lesson learned from yesterday here: if you get an early goal and you don't have any stats on the board yet, perhaps it's worth your while waiting for a reaction before committing to the trade. Not just assuming the odds-on favourite will deliver. We had a bit of fun with Hertha yesterday. 3-0 up, 2.73, take them on. Got the Heidenheim goal nice and early. Thought, strap yourselves in, but no, they didn't get a second to make it 3-2 and make it exciting. What a pity. But low liability, big reward. And you would have got a 1-2 risk-reward return just for that 3-1, by the way. But the problem with this play, the liability would have been very low for me, about 4 or 5 quid. What a pity. Coppa Italia didn't bother with, but look at the SerieA sides delivering. Eredivisie, no real plays there yesterday. The favourites all delivering, and the standout performance for me was AZ Alkmaar yesterday. Absolutely boss, because they weren't expected to be this comprehensive. Really solid stuff from them. So an excellent day yesterday. Let me show you some greens. Bradford and Peterborough was a simple lay the draw, favourite score, favourites double up, and off we go. Union Yukon, another simple taking on with the red card involved, and job done. Charlton Athletic, again, you've got the momentum graph to thank for this. Absolutely superb haul there. That was the Hertha Berlin liability, taking them on 3-0 up. That turned into a £7.50, £7.60 profit at 3-1. So something to bear in mind, but I wouldn't be putting a 40 quid liability up, 3-0 up. That's the problem. Liability to thank for this Oxford late equaliser. Not liability, momentum. Brilliant stuff from them. Low risk. I could have put more liability on and I would have got a bigger reward, but I only put put a small liability on this one. Still got a nice return. Middlesbrough got there in the end, and this is another one of those. Are you going to take a hit on the draw in the hope of getting the big win? Because it was 1-1 for a hell of a long time. If you're willing to stay into the end, this is the second match you'd have got a full reward in. For example, the Genk one earlier on. So many lessons from yesterday. Can I fit in some of today's research? First thing to do is to shortlist sides I think could be reliable today. Red Bull Salzburg. But they are post-European football. It is early season, so you saw with Union St Gilloise 0-0. We might not assume. Make sure the in-play stats suggest they're performing. Okay. Rapid Vienna at home between 1.5 1.7 will get shortlisted. You saw the goals in the Jupiler League yesterday. All of the big boys really out. Do your research with your app for looking at newly promoted, newly relegated members. Lommel, I think, double check whether they're newly promoted. They might be vulnerable. Okay, so do your checks on the likes of Belgium. You've got the app, so put the Belgian Jupiler League in and it will tell you who the newly promoted are, especially today. Don't forget there's European football as well. Newly promoted Artis Bruno are struggling in this league. So I don't expect them to land a blow. Or they might score, but without winning. Slavia Prague may be a European fixture. The Champions League is on next week. The Europa League, I believe, is on next week. So some of these sides are going to be affected. Good. That's why you double check, okay? Any of these big boys go a goal down, you double check that they haven't got European football coming up. If they do have, then you've got possibility of stepping away from the trade. Nordland, full of goals, as members will attest when they read the research. Mietland, as reliable as old boots. But flirting with European football again. Do your checks if they concede first. Copenhagen, surprisingly reliable this season. Famous last words. Killing it in Europe, scoring 2+ goals every match, even winning pre-Europe, which is a rarity for them. A very solid Super League coupon this afternoon. I'll be up and about for members for these. Championship begins. Watching brief. Has to be. No other reason. Newly relegated Saints. Newly relegated Hammers. That's going to be fascinating. How are West Ham going to perform? Mickey Mouse Community Shield. New manager for Manchester City. New era. Don't know how on earth they're going to perform against the Arse. I would be looking at this being tighter than my brother when it's his round. Lay over 0.5 goals at the start of the match. Hope for a long drawn out 0-0. It could ignite, of course, given the talent that's on show and the friendly vibe about it. HJK, strongly favoured. I've done full research for members of FootballTradingProfits.com. They've got full stats. Watch out for KUPS. Not fancy today, but are on a hell of an unbeaten run in Finland. Have been involved in Europe midweek, by the way. Might have a second leg next week, so double check. This could be the reason behind what are pretty dodgy odds for a side unbeaten in recent matches. Bundesliga's Vias watching brief at this stage of the season. But why, oh why, are Arminia Bielefeld such strong favourites? Cottbus City Limits, Tina Turner's favourite team, are newly promoted, I believe. Do check your app, please, members. RSFAI Cup, well, much of a muchness. Similar story, Coppa Italia. But again, we've got 4 out of 4 odds on favourites at home. Eredivisie today. 3 out of 4 odds on favourites at home. And the big boys are out. So this is going to be great. This is going to be a tester for Feyenoord with Go Ahead Eagles. You saw them last week at 1.6 plus odds. Rock solid. Full of goals. Can be a bit of a tester. Check whether Feyenoord 20 or Ajax are involved in European club competition. Ajax are involved in the Conference League. Just check for Feyenoord. New manager for Feyenoord as well. Robin van Parsnips has left. Elite Serien. and Bundesliga full research on every single match for members of FootballTradingProfits.com. So you've got your angles to hand. Fascinating odds on. Bran, Mulder and Tromso. Tromso scoring shed loads at the moment, including in Europe. But this is post-European football for them. I could see a both teams to score scenario there. And I bet you the analysis, the stats analysis I provide has come up with that conclusion as well. The analysis I provide is purely stats-based. It's not opinion-based. It's the conclusion based on what the stats are showing us. So it's really good. Kongsvinger, you're expecting goals in a Kongsvinger match. Dodgy, very, very dodgy. They can be 1.4 favourite and lose 3-1. They can be 1.79 favourite and win 4-0. Goals would be the better way to attack that. We've gone over the 20-minute mark, but I hope you're getting enough good info out of this. Rakow, involved in Europe midweek, played that match, got an equaliser, but not fancy today. La Liga Portugal, we got a Porto win yesterday. We've got Braga needing to get the points on the board with Sporting Lisbon drawing a few matches. So Braga, important for them to try to break into the top three. I'll be looking at them today, particularly in play stats wise. They will turn up. It's a watching brief early on in La Liga, but you saw yesterday in play stats and momentum will take over from any pre-match concerns. Similar story with La Liga 2. Girona look like they're newly relegated. Have to double check with your app that I've created for you members. Type in La Liga 2 and see whether Girona are newly promoted or newly relegated, because that's the kind of odds I expect of a newly relegated side from La Liga. Allsvenskan have done full research for members today. Djurgården have been on a bit of a topsy-turvy run of late, so that match will have to be looked at to see whether they justify the odds today against AIK. Swiss Cup, not going to be liquid enough. Turkish Super League is starting to boil over nicely. Fenerbahce lost yesterday. Guess what? Fenerbahce are involved in Europe. It's the turn of Besiktas now. Been involved in Europe, playing Ayupspor, who were newly promoted. The Turkish Yorkshireman, aye. Horvis Bread, aye. Managed by Nora Batty and Alan Titchmarsh. Fantastic stuff from Ayupspor. Going to give it to 100%. Tetley Teabags at half time. Horvis Bread, second half, 4-0 win. Ayupspor, fantastic. Ale, fantastic. Super stuff. Lovely stuff there, lad. Aye. So that's Besiktas playing the Turkish Yorkshireman. Come on, the Turkish Yorkshireman. So it's a fascinating coupon today. It is, I'm afraid, largely in-play stats based. So any trading angles I pass on will need to have that in-play stats and some faith from you, because we don't have any form to work with. So it's all about, and that's the mistake with Mario Hamner yesterday. I didn't wait to see how poorly SJK responded. Flat as a pancake. So my lesson today, particularly early season, ensure that the momentum's rising. Ensure the shots on target, shots off target, corners are developing consistently and frequently. So I'll see members of FootballTradingProfits.com again throughout the day. I made a decent profit yesterday. I hope members did as well. I did make a couple of ricks, Mario Hamner especially, but you're going to take a hit. But as long as our profits outweigh the hits, we are in clover. Have a great day. And members, I will see you on Telegram throughout. My apologies for not being able to verbalise messages at the moment. I just got to be a bit respectful of my neighbours, given the time zone where I'm speaking. So I hope you understand. But I'll be starting early enough today, I hope, 12:30. So if I can get on and verbalise some of the messages, I certainly will. It makes it a lot quicker, doesn't it? Have a great day. Apologies for the length. Hopefully there's a lot of good information for you. And see you later on, members, for another, I hope, profitable weekend day.